Jesus. Wittershins. Wittershins?
Wittershins!
And he's making up dinner with long vision and a riding crop. Anybody can feel like a winner when it's served up piping hot. But the people aren't looking for a handout. They're America's working core. Can this be what they voted for? Let them eat war. Let them eat war. That's how to ration the poor. Let them eat war. Let them eat war. There's an urgent need to feed declining pride. From the forest to the union shops, the war economy is making new jobs. But the people who benefit most are breaking bread with their benevolent host who never sold from the rich to give to the poor. All he ever gave to them was a war and a foreign enemy to deplore. Let them eat war. Let them eat war. That's how to ration the poor. Let them eat war. Let them eat war. There's an urgent need to feed declining pride. We've got to kill them and eat them before they reach for their checks. Squeeze some blue collars, make them bleed from their necks. Tease a few dollars from the people's sweat. 'Cause it's freedom or death, and they won't question it. At a job site, the boss is godlike. Conditioned workhorses park at a stoplight. Seasoned vets with their feet in nets. A stone's throw away from a rock fight. But not tonight. Feed them death. Here comes another ration. Feed them death. 'Cause they're the finest in the nation. Feed them death. But it's something that the beat up with. It's freedom or it's death. Let them eat war. Let them eat war. That's how to ration the poor. Let them eat war. Let them eat war. There's an urgent need to feed.
A new age of reason, brain treason to trick the mind. What good is searching if nothing's there to find?
We arrive at this place of no return, my brothers, only to discover that our minds have led us away so far from the paper truth of who we are. What's right is wrong, what's gone is gone, what's clear and pure is not so sure. All promises become a lie, all that's benign corrupts and dies. All our
Come forth, bear witness. See the profit from your laws, beg for forgiveness. Only after you tally the cost.
We arrive at this place of no return, my sisters, only to discover that our values ran us aground on the show in the sea of what we could be. What's right is wrong, what's gone is gone, what's clear and pure is not so sure. All promises become a lie, all that's been right corrupts and
so relative, subservient to dawn on one's perspective.
Start off the show, Wittershins, yo. Woo! Wittershins, radio for your spiritual side. A twisted approach to the left-hand path and all the paths in between. Hi. Clown to the left of me.
Joker to the right. We're always in this configuration.
There was a time or two that you were the clown to the right of me. You were there on your laptop.
You know, when we're upstairs, when we're in the tower,
we're upstairs.
I'm always to the right of you.
That's right.
But here, on the inside, I'm always to the left of you.
It'll probably be warm enough. We'll be at the tower soon.
Yeah.
You'll hear all the
like
traffic noise.
Change it up like that.
Yeah,
and
the helicopters.
Right.
And you'll be the clown to the right. Yeah. Oh, wait, Joker? Clown.
And sirens and stuff.
All that stuff. The sounds of the city.
Sounds of sirens.
You can kind of still hear them a little bit, I think. But
not really that much here.
Wittershins, springtime in Hollyweird. Let's see, anything before we go into our topic?
Well, just more Trump stuff and like the report and how they think he's like done and nothing happened and we don't think that, and it's always going to be like that. There's going to be one factual thing that happens, and one side will interpret it one way and the other side will interpret it the other way, and it's the same thing. Yeah. And that's just how we're going to exist until you get rid of him.
And the system's clearly broken, because my summary of it would be that, after the FBI investigation of Trump and the Russia thing and all that, we got a 4-page summary written by Trump's buddy, whose son-in-law got a job legally advising the President of the United States. Like all of the people that have gone to prison already, they and their whole families get jobs under Trump. You got loyalty. Your family gets jobs. That's consistent. So we got a 4-page summary, and that's all we've seen. And
now the idiots,
people want to
like
stop us
GOP,
from seeing anything more.
Now they want to investigate the FBI.
And they want to keep the American people and the rest of Congress, if they can, from seeing the full report. And innocent people don't do that. They just don't.
Okay, if you didn't do anything, and you're going to take that position that you didn't do anything, act like you're exonerated, you have to let people read what's exonerating you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. If you're scared of the truth, and there's something in that truth that's harmful to you, or you think it's going to be there, at least, or you expect to be there. And that's why Trump fought it tooth and nail all the way up till now.
Yeah.
But that's the mundane world. And, even probably even in our spiritual worlds, we still have, Trump supporting magical users of various calibers. As hard as I could even wrap my head around that, it exists. So that becomes political sometimes too. And like I always harping about, when the Christian Taliban is in power, witches have a right to be worried, traditionally.
Yeah.
Historically, that does not work out well for our kind, and so if you are of that ilk and you don't see that, well, you are blind, and at least let me know who you are, so don't give you any secrets to give us all away when you sell us all out to your Christian buddies. Maybe that's how I was raised, the whole witch persecution thing. But, that's one of the things. It was real. The numbers got inflated.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all that happened.
Way inflated.
Yeah, they threw a false statistic out there. But we have countless trial records to prove that shit went on, and it was huge enough, to fill entire books. But just, that's kind of the problem when somebody goes and throws a false statistic out to make their case, and that's undone, then the whole case falls apart. But, yeah. Let's see.
Well, the thing is, he doesn't even have a statistic.
Yeah.
So he's got less than that.
I don't know if that was, was it Gardner that first did that, or I think it was the 9 million.
And that's just like,
or some shit.
You have to be like really fucking stupid to believe that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I would just laugh when I heard it like way later on after people like finally realized that it wasn't real. It was like really, really.
It's too bad it messed up a really good song, but yeah. Anyway, there's.
And then there's like the Jussie Smollett.
Oh yeah.
That was kind of crazy.
We're
never gonna know about that.
Suddenly, they dropped all the charges against him for allegedly.
Yeah, well, he agreed to let him keep his like $10,000 bond, which is nothing to him.
Yeah.
And do community service.
Yeah.
And it's like, so they're just dropping charges, and they sealed everything. Yeah. So I don't know, like, does that mean like, okay, so we know you're guilty, but we're just going to drop charges for $10,000?
Well, they that particular case, they talk so much about it and gave us so much detail, which is, rarely done unless they're damn sure. And, it sounded like they had enough evidence to be really damn sure. Then all of a sudden, today, they dropped the charges.
A friend of mine who's a assistant public defender here said, that is used, it's they didn't just make it up. Yeah. But that she's really, really shocked that they applied it here, like given like how public it was and how many details people had and everything. Mm-hmm. So she's really surprised that they used it.
Huh. Yeah. So that was just today, right? Mm-hmm. It just happened. So yeah. Seems like the mayor of Chicago and the police chief are pretty pissed off about it. Wow. They still believe what they had the evidence to believe. So, don't know if this thing's over or if the guy gets his job back. And they like rewrite him back into the show they wrote him out of.
If he's been cleared of all and any wrongdoing, and that was the reason why he lost a job, you could probably lawyer up and get something out of that.
Yeah.
Unless they agree to write him back in the show.
Yeah. Interesting. Hollywood news in Chicago. Let's see. So, the thing I was thinking about today for today's show, the Witchcraft Without Bullshit, is we're on social media all over the place. I know Marta's on a buttload of witchcraft sites, and I'm on a couple buttloads of witchcraft sites too, and then YouTube and Twitter. Most of the people out there are witches that have found my Twitter, or people that like shit that I tweeted at Trump, which is the whole reason for my Twitter account in the first place, was just to be able to tweet back at Trump, and knowing that he's such a narcissistic ass that he probably reads all the comments, gets really pissed off, and it makes me feel warm inside. It's the whole reason I have Twitter, but more. There's Twitter witches out there. There's Skype witches out there. Like, some people use Skype as a social media network. Recently, I began getting Skype hoe requests. Like I get Facebook hoe requests, and I think I've got them on YouTube as well. So I don't know if I've gotten any hoe tweets on Twitter.
The hoes tweet?
I don't know. Some hoes got a tweet. Some hoes tweet, some hoes don't tweet. It depends on how much they get paid.
That's not something I've ever wondered about.
Yeah, well, you asked, so that's the only reason I even wondered.
Well, you're the one talking about hoes.
But they have hoes on all the social media sites. I think I was talking about the witches, but yeah, there's witches mostly. On Skype, and there's people using Skype as a social media network, and they're texting back and forth, and you can leave text messages, voice messages, video messages, and there's so much out there everywhere, and some of it's good, some of it's crap. Since I'm teaching. I specifically have subscribed to a bunch of total noob sites, so I just can familiarize myself with the type of noob questions that the kids today are asking. Not that different than the noobs I've taught my whole life, but there are some variations, and so as such, I see a lot of stupid shit out there. A lot of self-proclaimed experts out there advising noobs things that I would disagree with. And stupid shit sometimes. Sometimes the post in the first place is stupid. All I'm sorry, I don't want to be racist, but I don't believe in vampires. I don't think actual vampires exist. There's, people that live their lives as vampires, and that's cool. But vampires as they exist, in the movies, I don't believe that. But also, there's not, witches that in the movies that exist either. We're different in real life. So I don't know what other kind of vampires are out there, but, I see that on the witch sites sometimes, people talking about, actual vampires, turning into bats, the whole fucking thing, drinking blood. No. Neither do we ride around on broomsticks. We've gotten past that. So werewolves is a whole other topic that maybe I'll think about, whether I believe in werewolves. But,
werewolves?
Yeah. There's, there's vampires, werewolves, all the people.
Werewolves are the easiest ones to believe in. I know some werewolves.
Wow.
You don't know werewolves?
I don't know any werewolves.
I know werewolves.
Where are they? Where are these wolves of which you speak?
Away from the cities. Santa Cruz had werewolves.
I saw no werewolves. There were some
in the
coyotes.
Woods. Here?
In Santa Cruz.
No, werewolves. You didn't see werewolves?
Coyotes.
Oh, God.
Coyotes. They're dogs that move like cats.
Okay. You're going to see what you want to see. I saw werewolves.
I want to see werewolves. I did not see them. They were howling at the moon and shit?
Yeah.
Where was I?
Howling at the moon, too. You weren't paying attention to the
busy.
Werewolves around you.
I was busy. I was probably like in between worlds or something.
Yeah, see?
Conducting rituals and shit that happens around that time.
Yeah. And so
well, maybe that's part of the problem. I'm oft in a circle on the full moon when they're doing their werewolf thing.
See?
So maybe that's why we haven't crossed paths.
And then I play hooky sometimes, and I see the werewolves.
All right, so we're getting somewhere. See, sometimes you gotta, think. And maybe you figure shit out. I see see far too little thinking out there. And I'm on these noob sites. I hold my tongue most days. If I read some of this shit before coffee, I cannot be responsible for the demons that dwell within me before coffee. But there's just so much shit that before asking, like I've always said, there's, no stupid questions. But I don't know if I believe that quite anymore, because if the question hasn't been Googled first before you ask a bunch of witches on a social media site, that's stupid. You can find an answer to most things if you Google properly. If you Google your question and put the word witchcraft, or still magic with the ICK tends to bring up more accurate results. That's fading from our language, but it used to be how we designated our magic from hocus pocus. It's fading. It's fading from the landscape, but it still works in a Google search to sift out the things you're going to come up with. You got to scroll through and, don't accept everything that you hear. You can, with most things that the average person tends to be asking on these sites, they could have searched on Google and compared the first several answers that they got. And, most times the one that gets more votes wins. But not always, because sometimes things get lost over time. Things that all witches and all Wiccans once knew as standard practices are not standard everywhere anymore. The landscape changes. Landscape shifts. Wicca and witchcraft, both ways. Wicca got, so free form it was too hard to track or designate or define so many branches of Wicca, and witchcraft could never be stringent traditions because they're based on nature. They have to, bend with seasons and stuff, plant growth cycles, whatnot. So it could never be, too rigid. They had to, maybe they're rigid in their following of the patterns of nature, but that's a whole other argument. There's just so much stuff out there in these days, and you can find most things before you have to ask them if you do some searching. And I teach my kids, that they absolutely should do that. Some things I won't fully explain, and I'll stop right there and say, that's all I'm going to tell you. You need to figure the rest of that out. You need to go out and, search around and find, there's your homework right there. Search the shit up. Tell me what you find. Searching, questing for knowledge is what brings wisdom. That's what I was always taught. So even in this day and age, that the concepts change. Back then, when somebody first had that idea, you were questing up some craggy fucking mountaintop in the middle of the fucking winter to find the wise person to ask him the question where to find the mystical thing. But now those quests are happening from our couch or from wherever we are on our phone. We're questing over the information superhighways looking for this knowledge, and you can find a lot of it depending on how you search. And you can find a lot of crap. And a discerning mind is, I guess, where you're going to need to sift through a lot of this shit out there.
Yeah.
But some of the, I guess my top 9 here that I came up with, and I'm sure we'll come up with more. This I've seen too many times. So hey, I don't know if I'm speaking to anybody that listens to this show. Because, we tend to be, have some serious practitioners around here. There they are in the chat room. Hello. You are probably not an empath, okay? You need to stop using that as an excuse for your emotions or your inability to deal with emotions in social situations. These are often social anxiety. It's pretty common amongst a lot of witches, social anxiety. And I oft hear the majority of the empaths on the internets talking about feeling everybody's emotions when they're in crowds, being overcome by those emotions. I'm just here to say that in many of those cases, I'm going to have to propose the idea that you're just tripping, and you're trying to justify that emotion that you're having because of your social anxiety by saying that you're feeling the emotions of people around you. And a lot of times when that stream goes, it then goes, I'm feeling all the people's emotions around me, and all the people around me hate me. They're looking at me, they're talking about me, they're thinking about me, they're whispering about me, and I feel that. It's like, this is the kind of shit that I see with that, you know what? All the time.
I'm only one person, but the people who I think are actually empathic are the ones who don't say they're empathic.
Yeah, they're just
ones
silently
who
trying to deal with that shit.
go out there and really need you to know that they're an empath are the ones where I'm like, you're an asshole.
Yes.
And the ones who are empaths that don't talk about it. That's been my experience.
Absolutely. Well, a large amount of the empaths that I've come across are speaking about their empaths with a connection to their ability as a reader. With no disrespect to those that use that thing for reading, but I've been a reader all of my witch life. You had to be. It was one of the prerequisites. It's one of the things you had to have in your little bag of tricks. And my ability to detach myself from their situation is the way I am a reader. The last thing I'd want to be is an empath. They're already crying when I'm fucking reading for them. They're already having a profound emotional and psychological experience that will hopefully lead to healing. I don't want to feel that.
Yeah, you don't even cry when I cry. Reading. That's how good you are.
I always cry at the same things you cry about, except when I'm
on
reading.
The inside?
Except when I'm reading for you.
Oh.
Except when I'm reading, and that's one of the hardest things because she gets more readings than anybody else because I'm right here and the cards are right in front of me. I want a reading. I'm cheap. No, it costs, baby. It costs.
Yo, trust me, it costs.
But oh God, you're totally throwing me off there. But even there, I mean, that's one of the hardest ones to detach when I read. But to be able to detach from another person's emotions while I read it, because the thing that I'm going to have to say might be really hardcore and cut deep, emotionally and psychologically, and I find that more often than not. And maybe that's me, maybe it's them. With Marta, it's hard to tell because she's all hardcore too. So the spirits would speak to her would be hardcore. So they could be my spirits, they could be. It's very confusing there, but
But I like hardcore reading.
She accepts the hardcore, and true healing requires pain,
and you have to sit in the pain for a while.
Yeah. It may
have to.
Yes. It may require surgery, man.
Avoid it. It's always going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no way around that. And I view tarot reading as, part psychology. It's a therapy with cards, the way I read. And it tends to work out for people. I'm not, I don't really get into not predicting the future much when I do that. Maybe yes or no readings sometimes, but I'm showing the path of where the future is leading right now. You could change a couple cards, and that changes the entire flow of the reading. So if the cards before somebody in the reading are not favorable to them, then the cards behind them and leading up to the cards before them are the path and the bridge that we must change, so we don't get to the conclusion that the cards are showing. And that's history's not chiseled in stone. Some things may be. Some things may be predestined, but not all things are. But tarot, for me, shows you the path a thing is leading to. And we could always change that path. There's always 2 paths you can go by. But in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on. Mm-hmm. She's buying a stairway to heaven.
Yeah.
Honey. Mm-hmm. Should we play a song?
Sure. Play a song.
Let's get all romantic and stuff. We are Widdershins.
I'm in front of these people.
Widdershins is banishing, removing, counter to the common way, and in some cases, destruction. It's necessary.
Destruction. What kind of a fool do you think I am? Do you think I could be happy with this? Sometimes changes are hard to confront. Listen, and I'll be blunt. I want destruction. Destruction. I want destruction. Destruction. Change it around. Change it. Be careful with what you change. And always use wisdom in what you rearrange. For in this world there is good and there is evil. So don't mistake change for evil. You need destruction. Destruction. I want destruction. I want destruction. Change it around. Change it. Here we go. If you want to change the world, there's still time. It's a race between the atomic bomb and mankind. If you want a better world for that child, you'd better see that change runs wild. That's why I'm calling for destruction.
Bitten Teeth from the Siren, 1981, I believe that album was. And you could somebody ripped it off the album.
Even born yet.
Yeah, somebody ripped it off of the album. I put that up because the mic's under there. Yeah.
Of course you did.
So you can hear the static.
What?
You can hear the static.
Yeah.
And millennial kids are going, "What's that noise on the MP4 file there?" It's like, yeah, that's the static on the record that they ripped it from.
They don't get it.
They don't get it, man.
They don't get it.
They don't get it.
There's stuff they're just not going to get.
And still, somebody I still had to pay like $1 for that. I hope Posh Boy is not still getting money for that. All those punk bands way back when.
Oh, that's static. $1 for all that static?
I mean, I'm sure he's dead, but his family or something, the Posh Boy estate, we're still ripping off punk bands after he's dead. Listen to Witterson's Radio for Your Spiritual Side, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I was looking in the chat room and somebody was, oh God, what did she say? Pet peeves, having an online discussion, trying to help give good information, and someone posts, "Oh, just do what feels right." That makes me bonkers. Mm-hmm. Yes, and who was that? That was Strix. Yeah. Well, there's the only thing we got to on my talking points so far. I run into that all the time. And now me, sometimes when I'm doing stuff, and especially like when I had the brick and mortar, and customers would come in for something that, I wasn't sure what I was going to whip together, I would do what felt right. However, I did what felt right after decades of looking shit up in books, following recipes, studying.
That's actually what I was going to say. Some people do get to the point where they can do what feels right, but you have to have a lot of study and practice under your belt. Like, you can't be brand new. I'm just learning and just doing what I think feels right. No.
I remember it makes me think of this time. I think it was King of the Hill. Peggy had a cleaning show, like a house cleaning show, and she didn't really know much about house cleaning, so she's just winging it. And she had this brilliant idea. She was going to mix ammonia and bleach together. And I think Hank stopped her. It's just like, that's a great idea. It's mustard gas. Everybody in the neighborhood's dead. That's all you got to do. Mix those two together. Everybody's dead. She was going to do that, and she had it was like a blog or a web page or something that she was going to post this information on, just off the top of her head, having not tried it. As if she tried it, she'd be dead, and then she wouldn't be able to tell other people that and get them killed. But no experimentation, no study. Remember the donkey and the gourd?
Yeah.
The Rumi. That's the story of Donkey and the Gourd. There's I know, it's just a rich lady, and she has
a donkey and there's a gourd.
So this rich lady, and she has slaves or servant people, and her husband's away quite often, and she sees the servant girl has figured out this way where she's hollowed out this gourd to fit over the donkey's penis as a stopper. To keep it from going too far, and has trained the donkey and figured out how to position herself on a stool underneath the donkey, and the donkey fucks the servant girl, and so the lady of the house, she witnesses this one day, and one day sends the servant girl to the market to get her out of the way, and she did what she saw from her perspective. She got under the donkey on the stool and pulled him to that position, and the donkey thrust one time up all the way through her, penetrating all the way up to her chest, I guess, and killing her instantly. And the servant girl returns, and her thoughts on it. She says the lady of the house set up shop before the master taught her craft. And I just thought, God damn, Rumi. Yeah, such a way, a graphic and twisted and sexual way of delivering a message that you never forget that, man. She didn't know. Yeah, she didn't know about the gourd. She hadn't been instructed on the gourd. She couldn't see the gourd from her perspective. Mom used to say, and this offends many people these days, but my witch mom, who's not my birth mom, I'm not trying to say that, but Judith Frame, she said the difference between folk magic and witchcraft is folk magic is often magic done by the folk after witnessing the witch do such magic and repeating the steps that they saw, without knowledge of why. You know, who, what, why, where, when, the reasons behind the steps. And in a lot of cases, just repeating the steps without that knowledge did work. But it worked, in different ways, less accuracy. There was a lot of different theories about that. But the difference for her and then to me is a witch knows why it works. We need to know the end and the be all of it. How did it come to us? Who first taught this thing? How did it come to us? And what changes have been made to this magic before it got to us? And what changes can we make to make it more accurate? We need to know why. That's difference. Back then, there's a lot of different folk magics now than were known then, so I don't know if that would apply to a lot of them, so don't get all too pissed off and stuff.
You have a tipped cow.
Have a tipped cow. But in that do what you feel thing, there's a thing, there's way at the end of my list, but it ties into what I'm saying, so I'll say it now. Education and experience matter, and everywhere else in the world land you the job. Unless you're just a total asshole, unless you can't, deliver those things, in front of people. Education and experience matter in all forms of life on this world, but in the online witchcraft world, not so much. Very often, people. I've seen people attack me for my age, and like my age and my experience in the craft is not basis enough for what I just fucking said that you disagree with. It's like, no, I'm sorry, how many years do you have? I'm sorry, I hate to be the one to pull the age, and I often do it. I piss people off, but it's like, no, honey, I've been worshiping the goddess since before you were a sperm. That pisses people off when I say that, but it's true. Most times this happens. Most times that I run into this type of person, it's an extremely young, inexperienced witch that has been granted a title way beyond their merit, way beyond their education or experience and leadership skills. And if you challenge them on that, they get really pissed off. But that's how it works in America right now. If we challenge our leader, he gets very pissed off and loses his shit. I was brought up that's the mettle of a leader. You can't rattle their shit. And if you can figure out how to rattle their shit, you can win every battle. That's half of the art of war, is figuring out how to rattle somebody's shit. Were you going to say something?
No, I was just thinking about dinner.
I got something I could whip up.
I got to make
Don't
those.
You worry.
No, I got to make those beet greens I was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
That Sasha picked.
Beet greens.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's anything going on.
And you're going to like it.
Bunch of stuff going on in the chat room. But, those things matter. I don't care what it is. I don't care. If you've been pumping gas for 20 fucking years, you know more than I know about pumping gas, even though it doesn't seem like there's anything to know. But you know shit that I don't know if I just started doing that work. Doesn't matter what it is. Education and experience do matter, and some people need to shut the fuck up. If it isn't about, an ego boost, it's like I've answered questions all day long, and it's not about an ego boost. Sometimes about just like keeping my skills up. It's like, I get random questions from students all over the place. Most times I find that I don't need to keep my skills up. They're pretty up, but I do that anyways. It's just kind of like mental witchcraft calisthenics or something like that. But those things do matter, and they should matter in any argument when you're arguing with somebody that's done the thing longer than you and been trained in more than you. And I would never assume the position if I had any elders in my tradition alive, I would never assume that position, and I never did while they were alive. Of that tradition, I have none anymore and can say whatever the fuck I want about it. But in that vein, here's another one. You are not a third-generation hereditary witch. Shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. Heard it so many times. The people that say it 99% of the time, and I don't really know a 1%, but I hate absolutes. 99% of the time, they don't know shit. And it's like, okay, so, you were born into it. Didn't your grandmother teach you any of that shit? They don't know shit. They don't know shit. They don't know shit. It's usually the most arrogant, control freaky types, or they use that so you won't ask them questions. Like, well, I want to know about your education and experience on the subject matter, having come from a family line. Like, they start teaching you witchcraft shit in the crib, because that'd be cool. I want to know what is that shit. How would you do that? How would you, transfer that over to a baby? I would want to know these things. And if, a person freaks out when you ask him these fucking questions. No, I have not seen it be the case. I come from a lot of background, but a lot of it seems to be very Catholic. And if I were to try and research which of my ancestors that came up in Ancestry.com or whatever, were the witches, they would be blank spots in the family tree. They would have been excommunicated at some point and removed from all existence on paper. Most of the time of the Catholic Church, this would be true of those people. They would be heretics. They'd be just removed. You just would not find them. I don't see that being true. We've been around enough time for people to have several kids and pass it on, but I never see it be true to anybody that says it on the internet. They always tend to be full of shit. And people are really hung up on that. And I probably touched on some of this on was my video. It got less hits at first because people didn't understand what it was, but it was called To Kill a Sacred Cow. And To Kill a Sacred Cow was about this hereditary witchcraft stuff. All of the older witchcraft traditions that we know of seem to have something in the initiation that changed the person into the witch. You weren't born a witch. The training didn't make you a witch. The initiation made you a witch. We'll get into, I'm sure we'll talk more about initiation after we get further down the thing. But the initiation made you the witch. There were older traditions and some people that exploited those ideas in really ugly ways, like the Frosts. Sexual initiation, rituals during initiation. These did happen all the way up. Definitely still happened in the fairy tradition under Stuart and oh God, I forgot her name now.
Jen?
Stuart. No. Cora Anderson. In the early days of their traditions, this sexual initiation rites were still present. There were varying other ones. There tend to be that a lot of the sexual rites of old witchcraft tended to be replaced by the symbolic rites of, the blade and the cup, the symbolic great rite. The symbolic great rite was also used to replace that component of initiation. But there tended to be a really important thing about, the last drink of the wine being important. Far enough back in some witchcraft traditions, the blood of the main people, be it the high priest, high priestess, drop of the blood, was in the wine. This exchanged the DNA to the initiate and made the initiate of the blood. There were no arguments about hereditary bloodlines in these times where those things occurred, because there were rituals to make you of the blood. Not all of them involved, ingesting the blood, but there was always a component of the initiation rituals by most witchcraft that changed you into one of us. And that is, probably one of the more in-depth ones, and the ones that nobody fucking knows about. So I tell you. The mafia has a similar ritual with the Godfather's blood, and probably not all of them have that, but some do. Back in my day, old school witchcraft, we had, there was the symbolic great rite, and the symbolic great rite was to bless the wine and the cakes, but the symbolic great rite blessed the wine. And then the wine was passed around. The wine was first sipped from the priest and the priestess. For the priestess first, then the priest, then passed around the group, the coven, what have you. The exchange of DNA is present in this ritual, be it skin fragments, which would be admissible in a court of law, to, some people are fucking backwashing a little bit of the wine. It was kind of gross, but, I guess we believe the alcohol killed the germs. But it was one cup. You'd have a large cup for a large group. It was a communal ritual. It was beautiful. And then AIDS became the rage. And that ritual died. And then there was Dixie cups, where everybody brings their own chalice. If that exchange of the DNA through the communal lines had some reasoning behind it, it died. Mid-'80s. Don't know, probably never came back, which was stupid. You couldn't get AIDS from drinking out of somebody's cup, but people were fucking freaked out. It was very psycho back in the 80s. So definitely the blood rituals. The blood rituals, most people didn't even know were happening anyways, but those would have been very frowned upon come AIDS time if they found out that, your priest and your priestess were putting their blood in the wine. But shit like that happened. That was probably the most graphic of the one, but it tended to be a component of the old initiation rituals that made you different than you were. In every one of the initiation rituals of all the older crafts, many elements have been borrowed from the Egyptian rituals, or what we knew of the Egyptian rituals. And in the initiation rituals of the Egyptians, there was a very serious symbolic death and rebirth. And all of the craft traditions tended to have something like that in it. There's a point where the old you died, the new you was born, under your witch name, under your witch identity, with your witch tools, the new and better Wuji you. Now that would bring us to the extremely controversial of late, in at least in the European crafts. I think it's pretty much decided in the other crafts. Initiation cannot be self-done. There's no self-initiation. Self-dedications happen. They did. I've done self-dedications. My first dedications into Strega were self-dedications. So I was already initiated as a high priest in other witchcraft traditions, but I didn't get initiated into that tradition. There was nobody around to do that. I'd be the most qualified to do that, but I'm not initiated to do that. I don't know anybody that knows more about that than me. But at any rate, that's self-dedication. It's kind of different. I tend to think my self-dedication was really bougie as fuck because of my experience and training. But that was me, and it was a personal experience, and nobody else was there. Initiation, other people were there. In a lot of traditions, initiation was initiation into a coven. So your coven was there. Your priest and your priestess were there. In larger traditions, your priest and priestess were there, and the high priest and priestess of the entire tradition were there. Big deal. People were involved. I've always wanted to point out with that one, it's like the part of the meaning's in the word. It's a beginning. And we have these sayings in the craft. Every end is a beginning. Every beginning is an end. It's a cycle, constantly round and round and round. So it's the end of what you were and the beginning of what you're going to be. A lot of people look at it as like the end of a bunch of training that they went through. But I see this argued a lot. But a tradition that has initiation, you got to be initiated into it. There are more, some of these, do whatever you feel traditions. I don't know how stringent they are on initiation, but if you're doing it to yourself, it's closer to masturbation. It's not initiation. Should that be the saying? If you're doing it to yourself, it's masturbation, not initiation. Oh, say Uncle Birch said that. I
suppose that would be accurate.
That's going to be an Uncle Birch quote right there. If you're doing it to yourself, it's masturbation, not initiation. Okay. It can't
but that
be,
implies
it can't
that
be dedication.
Initiation includes sex, and it usually doesn't.
Not with a person. The joining, especially like in the older, more witchcraft forms of Wicca, there was a sexual relationship between the initiate and the opposite gender deity. That in those traditions that still did the sex, the priestess was vesseling the goddess, the priest was vesseling the god. At least that was the idea. But I'm sure the Frosts said that too, and they were fucking just sickos. So those rituals didn't continue because of that kind of shit. But it was supposed to be you were having sex with the goddess, they were having sex with the god. And then, you're far enough back in paganism, children born out of those unions were these sacred other things. Maybe witches. I don't know. Yeah. But, I don't think you're a third generation hereditary witch. Basically, that whole talking point. This one,
although our kid is second generation.
Yes. I maybe I should go seventh generation, but they're just. It's rare that people keep that thing alive in the generations. Children rebel and do their own things. That's why I just don't. I don't bring that stuff up. It was right up in my daughter's face, and she grew up a large portion of her life in the back of a cold store, and she's agnostic. Last I heard. Yeah. So I don't even know. I don't talk to her about her spiritual beliefs, or she'll figure out her own way, but. She is named a radio. We'll see how that works out. But this one, I'm sure I'll piss some people off with this one too. You do not own what you borrowed. And I see in recent years, and I've been at this a very long time, and don't make me pull the fucking education and experience card again and tell you how old I am. I've been around, and I've seen a lot of the things that most people don't even know happened. I've seen them happen. I've seen the creation of forms of Wicca and witchcraft here in the United States, variations break off between those and those in England. I've seen a lot of our history happen. I don't remember it. And then I went and I read some stuff today too, and I learned even some more things. But the British traditional witches have rode in of late on their white horses, claiming the crown and the throne of Gardner, Gerald Gardner, because those British traditional witchcraft strains have a connection to Gardner, and their lineages can all be traced back to Gardner or one of his offshoots. God damn, that horse has so left the gate. I find it ridiculous that this argument's even trying to be out there. It doesn't fucking matter, except in British traditional witchcraft. Your lineage, your initiations doesn't fucking matter, except in that lineage. I did some reading today, and you all let me read some of it so I don't mess too much of it up. I was just searching around for some stuff that I wasn't too sure about, and History.com had this article. Where the fuck did it go now? The History Channel has a whole article on Wicca, and it talks about well, first of all, most of you don't know, and before Gardner, there was Margaret Murray. And Margaret Murray wrote this book called The Witch Cult in Western Europe. And that really was the fuse that ignited all of this shit to happen. And she was an anthropologist, and she had proposed this theory about this previous pre-Christian fertility cult of witchcraft and paganism, surviving through the times of persecution, scattered all over Europe, and was traveling all over Europe, studying them. He doesn't get mentioned in this, but Murray's research and Charles Leland's research get tied together. I forget which one's older, really. Let me see. Margaret Murray. I'm going to click on it just to make sure. It's not going to go there. It's going to make me look. Okay, well, it's not too far down there, but Murray's ideas. 1921, the witch cult in Western Europe. Okay, that does predate. Wait a minute. No. 1921. No, see, that would tie in Leland's. Leland's book's older than that. Not mentioned here today, but she proposed these theories, and her theories were discredited by some scholars, but they're never really disproven. And she just, offered a fascinating idea, and it turned out that there were these traditions existing in groups keeping up some of these traditions around the world. Maybe she, inflated the idea. I think from some of her ideas come the 9 million dead ideas and that kind of thing, and maybe that was part of the problem. But so some of her stuff is disputed, but her ideas sparked this whole thing. And then Charles Leland was studying the witches of Tuscany, and they believed they had survived through the burning times and been led by Diana's daughter, and another story that tied into that. All this Gardner stuff happens on the heels of that thing. And the thing with Gardner is the narrative. I grew up with Gerald Gardner, is that Gerald Gardner had spent a lifetime studying religio magic around the world, and then came back and retired in the New Forest region of England, met the New Forest witches, learned their stuff, broke off and made his own coven. He would have to have included ideas that he'd picked up around the world, studying religio magic around the world, to fill in any of the blanks along the way. He would have, and there would have been nothing wrong with it. That was true witchcraft. Sticking to one specific tradition was not. He would have had to have done that. He borrowed from Crowley. His original Book of Shadows had that clearly illustrated. Later version, I think they even said they had somebody edit it. Was it? It wasn't Margaret Murray. It was. The Book of Shadows. Doreen Valiente. They had Valiente rewrite Gardner's Book of Shadows and write the Crowley references out of it. But it was clear when he first wrote the book, the connections to Crowley, the stuff he got from Crowley, and Crowley's actual help in formatting the first of the Wiccan rituals, borrowed from Crowley, way predating Gardner. And nothing wrong with that. People coming along much, much, much later and trying to claim ownership of an entire craft based on that lineage or that connection to the lineage, when I find no instance of Gerald Brusso Gardner doing that himself. For the British traditional witches to come along later and try and do that and try and dictate what is Wicca and what is not Wicca ain't going to happen. Gardner opened Pandora's box, and from Pandora's box was born many things, some very different than his original Wicca. But even in this history, the History Channel article, they talk about, later down the road, Doreen Valiente broke off with dissidents from Gardner, and that there were other dissidents and other groups sprung up all over. You still, almost as old as Gardner's group, but these groups sprung up the same way that Lucifer sprung off of Jehovah, man. It's part of the same thing. It's part of the same seed. It's a plant you may not have thought you were going to grow from that seed, but you planted some seeds, and that's what shit grew off of that. It's not invalid. Dissidents. Yes. It's still born of those same seeds. But then over here in America, they touch on some different things, out of, there's all these dissidents around England, but then over here in America in the 60s, these other forms of the same ideas were born. And I find myself owing more allegiance to those forms. In America, the term neo-pagan is coined. And it's coined by Oberon Zell. Then back then he was Otter. I think that's back. Yeah, he was Otter back then. Otter Zell. Now he's like Oberon, Ravenheart, something Zell. I think that's the whole name. I kept changing it all my life. That's confusing, dude. I know. I shouldn't talk, Uncle Birch, Phil. I know. But coined the term. I think there's evidence to say they coined the term polyamory too, and that's a whole other can of worms. But neo-paganism was at the roots of Wicca in the United States. Wicca in England was about nature and uniting with nature, but tended to be practiced mostly back in the day, by a class of people that didn't like to get dirty. Some of our pagan, neo-pagan ancestors here were rolling around in the mud at Woodstock. The mud people were pagan. They had a whole religious component to that, and uniting with Mother Nature by rolling around the mud. And it's as much connected to the neo-pagan movement of the 60s as anything else was. Here in America came the extreme environmental components of Wicca, the extreme feminist components of Wicca. We get there are some seeds, so definitely some seeds of the feminist Wicca in England, but it really takes off over here. But by and large, the rolling around in the dirt kind of Wicca and paganism, no, that's American born. It's American born. I'll read you some more of this story. They talk about Raymond Buckland, Sybil Leek. popularized in America. Sybil Lee claimed she was a hereditary witch, but, there was less people doing that back then. There's Alexander's in the 60s, not even going to talk about him. Laurie Cabot, they had a nice little thing about Laurie Cabot. This is all on the History Channel. But Wicca and feminism. The 1970s saw an American version of Wicca transform the magic-based pagan discipline claiming British heritage to a nature-based spiritual movement with heavy tones of environmentalism and feminism. In turn, this influenced the religion in England. Okay, woo! So, according to the History Channel, we did that, and then the waves resounded back across the pond to merry old England, and we affected the parent witchcraft. But, yeah. Shit was revolutionized here. Unfortunately, they do mention here, and this is true, 1971, Wiccan activist Z. Budapest started the Susan B. Anthony Coven, Dianic Wicca, and then Wicca recognized as a religion, 1986. Now, this part I didn't even realize that Wicca was recognized as an official religion in the United States through the court case of Detmer versus Landon. In the case, an incarcerated Wiccan, Herbert Daniel Detmer, was refused ritual objects used for worship. Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that Wicca was entitled to First Amendment protection like any other religion. So I always knew when it became legal. I did not know exactly what fight occurred. Started in prison. Interesting. I'm learning stuff still. What you got to say? Sitting there being the clown to the left of me.
I'm just thinking about dinner.
Still thinking about dinner.
Well, we haven't had dinner, so of course I'm still thinking about dinner.
All right, let's see.
But it's okay. I'm in a good mood.
Not too long. You'll have more of an appetite. But let's see. You came up with the Wiccan Read.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about that? They're still talking about the Wiccan Read out there.
Any harm done, do what you will.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I kind of follow that just personally, like I don't want to harm people, but also I think that there's a time and a place to harm people.
Yeah.
I do. And that probably goes against the Wiccan Read. What are you going to do?
That's why I lean more towards Strega. Never harm the innocent. Mm-hmm. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I can live with that.
And then there's, which, this plays into it. Harm by omission.
That's classic.
Like if you're on a subway and you see a little old lady getting beaten up, don't stand there and video it.
Yeah.
Help her.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are committing harm by omission. Just standing there and recording it is not helping anybody.
Yeah. I mean,
this was put up like way before the times of recording, but I'm just like, making it current.
Yeah, because that's what we got to do. We got to keep it current.
Yeah.
Yeah. Harm by omission. It's you allow more harms to occur. I always go about, I get Spock on it, man. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. It might be better to harm one person than allow them to shoot up them all.
Well, then the other thing that, I've recently been looking into is like, let's say there's a toxic person preying on another person, and there's a bunch of people saying, oh, I'm neutral, I'm not going to get involved.
Silence.
If you're being neutral is actually helping the oppressor and hurting the victim. Like you might tell yourself that you're not taking a side and you're being neutral and you're being nice to both sides, but you're aiding the oppressor. So there's that too.
Silence is compliance.
Yes.
Yes. Like the GOP.
Yep. This brings us to current events.
Okay, so again, I'm old. I said that before, right? I watched a lot of this happen. The majority of the PR campaign of Wicca happened under my watch. I watched it happen. I understand the fear associated with much of the world and the word witch, and that it was necessary. Like for instance, the word Wicca. The whole reason for using the word Wicca was come up with later. Gardner's book said witchcraft. Witchcraft today, the reason of the witchcraft, blah, blah, blah. They also said witchcraft. They never said Wicca on them. Started using the term Wicca because witchcraft conjured up, the weird sisters in Macbeth, and later, the Wicked Witch of the West, and, green skin, and riding around on brooms. Throughout history, a bunch of really scary shits conjured up in your head when you said the word witch. But when you said the word Wicca or Wiccan, people go, what, huh? And you got to tell them stuff about your beliefs before you let it out that, it also means witch. You got to say some shit and describe your belief before they freaked out. And it worked. It was good. It was a good idea. I'm not saying it was a bad idea, but along with the using a different word for it that doesn't already have a bunch of stigma attached to it, was the immediate thing that people would have to launch into. We have rules against harming others because fear's the whole thing. And of all the history, less than 9 million, but of all the ones that were put to death, most of it was fear. Fear, jealousy, somebody afraid of that person for something they have, something that person wants that the other person has, something like that. It's fear that put all the witches to death. So it's really easy to get somebody scared of somebody you don't like by saying they're a witch, because witches could, they could be a toad snuck into your house. They could be a wisp of air. They can curdle the milk. They can kill the crops. They can stillborn your newborn. They can do fucking anything. As history went on, there was more things branded to the work of witchery that you could blame a witch for. Your husband was attracted to another woman. She bewitched him. Now she's a witch. No, not that he just was attracted to another woman. No, now she's a witch if you've got enough power and money. That's the kind of shit that went on. Anyway, somehow that whole the point I was originally trying to make with the read is necessary to say. In that PR campaign was also the time when most witches throughout the 80s would have to throw in there, we're not Satanists. We don't eat babies. And I just thought that was extremely offensive, to have to throw the Satanists under the bus, to make yourself
and
look
imply
better.
That they eat
babies.
It's
totally implying that the Satanists eat babies. And it's like, Satanists are persecuted just as much as you, and most of you that are persecuted are called Satanists. So
and you probably agree with them more than you agree with the persecutors.
More and more that they have Facebook pages, right? I agree.
Satanists have all of a sudden become the voice of reason.
They are the fucking voice of reason. My God. But, true Luciferians, man. Lucifer was the voice of reason, but that's a whole other thing. To the Wiccan read was necessary for the PR campaign that brought a lot of witchcraft through very hard times, and a lot of things associated with witchcraft was easier on them too because of the PR campaigns, because people would see similarity in some of these magics as other magics that happen to be practiced by brown-skinned people that they would have been more freaked out about had it not been for Wicca. So credit's due. We'll get on to the fucking threefold law after this. On Waitersheads.
Video games train the kids for war. Only she can have fashion stores. Law orders done their job. Prisons filled while the rich still rob. Assassination politics. Violence rules within our nation's midst. Well, ignorance is their power too. You only know what they want you to know. The television cannot lie. Controlling media with smoke screen eyes. Nuclear politicians picture show. The is lousy, but the blind don't know. Open your eyes, see the lights right in front of you. Open your eyes, see the lights right in front of you. Open your eyes, see the lights right in front of you. Open your eyes. They scare us all with threats of war, so we forget just how bad things are. You taste the fear when you're all alone. They're gonna get you when you're on your own. The silence of conspiracy, slaughter on and on to all apathy. You gotta wake up from your sleep, 'cause we can hear it's up 6 feet deep. Open your eyes, see the lights right in front of you. Open your eyes, see the lights right in front of you. Open your eyes, see the lights right in front of you. Open your eyes.
Lords of the New Church on Witterson's Radio. And who was it? Wendy in the chat room. I don't want to chat in the chat room because there was that glitch one time that crashed the show. I got to test it and see if they ever fix that damn thing before I do that. But hello, Utu, Wendy, Lisa, Strick was in there, EP, Jillian. Oh, God, I scrolled way far back. All y'all. Howdy, y'all. But Wendy was saying, just a thought, isn't harm none, but do what you will, an oxymoron. Well, kind of is, but see, the thing is, it says, any harm none, do what thou wilt. Okay, so some people want to take old sayings and break them down into modern day English, and sometimes they lose something in the translation. First of all, and means like kind of like if, so it doesn't lose a whole lot there. But do what thou wilt shows us, did he borrow these lines from Crowley? There's such a specific grouping of words that it shows us from whence they came. And I love that kind of shit in witchcraft. I can figure out all kinds of things. Like, when, God, I was just talking about this the other day on, when I was a co-host on Candelo's Corner. One day somebody asked how to make holy water. And I'd had a few drinks. And next thing you know, I'm blurting out the traditional way of making holy water. And part of my brain's yelling at me at the time. Go, dude, what are you doing? You don't know how to make holy water. Shut the fuck up. Ah! And so then as I do sometimes, I'll Google myself, or I'll Google after I speak. And when it's about witchcraft and spirituality or religion, I tend to find out that I'm right. And, the formula that I had blurted out was directly from the Key of Solomon, and is apparently to this day the traditional method that the Catholic Church uses to create their holy water. Easy to remember because the components of that ritual, broken down, are the blessing of the salt and water, in Gardnerian witchcraft. And when you hear certain ways of, I conjure thee, O creature, that's one of the ones, creature of salt. When you hear the words creature of salt or creature of water, the lines you are hearing derive from the Keys of Solomon, ancient fucking magic. It tends to use words like I've known to use in witchcraft. You only use positive terms, and in the language it's free of hindrance and malignancy. Okay, if you ever hear the words free of hindrance and malignancy together, you know from whence that sentence comes. Nobody else talks like that. Nobody else wrote it like that. Solomon wrote it that way. And the spirits of the world of phantasm. That's another sentence. Like, you ever hear about the spirits of the world of phantasm anywhere anymore ever again? Probably, yeah. Other than the movie Phantasm. Those lines came from Solomon. And apparently, well, I had read Solomon and, studied all the Gardnerian stuff too. So, somehow my witch brain remembered all that shit. So, there was something. Oh, yes. There was that thing. You are tuned to Witterson's Radio. If you got anything you want us to plug, wittersonsradio@gmail.com. Send it to us. Anything you want to say, guests to suggest. We have there's a book club that started in the chat room. They've been reading the books from the authors that we have on, and they have a Facebook page. If you're in the chat room, I'm sure they'll tell you the Facebook page right now. If you're not in the chat room, I don't know. What's wrong with you? You got to follow. I mean, unless you're not on Spreaker. We've got several other formats. 22,000 listeners on one of our formats. Yeah. Other formats I haven't even looked at, and there's like iHeartRadio and I think SoundCloud, and there's just, I don't even look, and I probably good ratings on those because I've just totally let go of them, not even thinking about them. And then we get rebroadcast on YouTube. Good amount of listeners there too. So if you want to advertise, or you got something that you think we will plug for free, either way, you want to pay us, of course we'll plug it. Yeah, if you want to, you want us to plug something for free, like worthy events like what I'm about to plug, we'll do that. You find me at gumroad.com. That's gum like gum on your shoe, road.com/witchschool, WITCHSKEWL. You can find me all over the place teaching for free and not for free. If you just Google Uncle Birch or Uncle Birch Witchcraft, Uncle Birch Magic, probably narrow down the parameters. But you find me all over the goddamn place. Google me, bitch. Google me, bitch. But until then, you got to come to Hex Fest, August 9th to the 11th. You got to. I don't want to hear any of your crap. You got to go to Hex Fest. You got plenty of time to plan this shit out. Just, fuck whatever you got going on. Just tell them to fuck off. You must go to Hex Fest and join in the magic. Tales of the magic of the Crescent City of New Orleans stretch back over the centuries. It's an enigmatic place where voodoo, hoodoo, witchcraft, and even Christianity blend at the crossroads of spiritual power. On August 9th to the 11th, 2019, Brian Kane, Christian Day, and the Witches of New Orleans present Hexfest, a weekend of witchery held in the heart of the historic French Quarter. The conference opens with riverboat ritual and dinner held on an authentic steamboat on the Mississippi River, followed by 2 full days of workshops, drumming, and ritual at the Bourbon's Orleans Hotel, a venue riddled with a history of hauntings. Hexfest has gathered witches, root workers, voodoo priests, and other magical teachers from within New Orleans and around the world to offer their time-honored wisdom. Between workshops, attendees will love the magical shopping in our on-site vending hall, where you can purchase powerful ritual tools, signed books, exquisite jewelry, and spellcrafts handmade by true practitioners.
clear up a lung. Presenters for the 2019 Hexfest hail from across the spectrum of witchcraft and magic, and include Brian Kane, Christian Day, Austin Shippey, Byron Ballard, Carrie O'Crow, Christine Steffens, Dorothy Morrison, the Dragon Ritual Drummers, Fiona Horn, Hoodoo Senmois, Lady Rhea, Laura Tempest Zaycroft, Michael Carell, Melissa Mayhem, Patricia Telesco, Rosemary Ellen Gilly, Sally Ann Glassman, Sandra Maria Wright, Sen Elias, Sarita Deste, Star Cassis, Star Ravenhawk, Witch Doctor Utu, and Yeshe Matthews. Whether you're a beginner or an advanced practitioner, Hexfest will help you to discover the secrets of witchcraft and expand your mystery of the magical arts. Just today, somebody was saying I was going to be in New Orleans in the summer. When should I go and what should I do? And I said, well, you need to go the 9th, the 11th and go to Hexfest. And somebody chimed in. They were whining about it. Says, that's if you can afford the $300 admission price. Like, pff. And I said, bitch. No, I didn't say bitch because I get kicked off there. I said, have you seen the lineup and the events and the shopping? And so that's what, 3 days, $100 a day. Really? That's going to make you a break. Step up your game, witches. $100 a day is going to break your bank. You must be one of these witches we're going to talk about that believe that you can't do magic for personal gain, you dumbass. Oh my God, really? So I didn't want to hear it. For that many people, I mean, people got to, get paid, right? They got to get their expenses and shit. I know, the riverboat rituals and drumming. I mean, that ain't even listing all the rituals and shit going on. Yeah. It's epic. It's epic, y'all. You got to check. I ain't even been there, but I know. It's epic. Yeah, but fuck. You're going to whine about the 300. We don't want you there. We don't want you there, man. I know you got to associate with, the fortunate and wealthy, not the miserable and broke. So you keep your broke ass home. Just kidding, my God. Okay, yeah, they've posted the Wittershins book club and stuff in the chat rooms. I know they would because people's on it. I got to find stuff to hire the Wittershins book club people, and definitely the one that started the Wittershins book club for something. Yeah, good skills over there. But yeah, before I get to that one, the threefold law, man, it still comes up. I just I hear these noob kids asking if they should do this thing, and people chime in. Well, it's going to come back on you threefold. Oh God. Okay, now. I understand the PR campaign, right? And I understand, these noob witches, you don't want them throwing shit on people all the time, and you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, you get all kind of shit on you, good, bad, ugly.
I have the best meal planner.
Okay, you can get.
I've been toiling in the kitchen.
But
listening to you.
Okay, good. Oh God, what the fuck? Oh, that's threefold law. So I understand, these are new pages, and you don't want these kids going and throwing on people, and if they don't know what they're doing, they can get some stuff on them. They can mess up their lives. Yeah, that can happen. But these are kids. I view them. They call me Uncle Birch for a reason because I'm older than most of the motherfuckers. I view them as kids, and I'm a father, and so I think about that kind of thing. If your kids later find out that the stuff you told them is bullshit, they're going to start trying to figure out what else you told them is bullshit. Like when they used to tell us kids, if we smoked pot, we'll become heroin addicts and end up living on the street, or we'll jump off of buildings trying to fly, shit like that. Did you ever see Reefer Madness? That kind of shit. It's like, you find out that that's absolutely not true. And then you go, wow, really? The people I trusted my whole life to teach me and bring me up were lying?
Well, shit, what else are they lying about? I'm going to try some heroin. I'm gonna go do acid on a tall building. They said that wasn't a good job. I'm gonna go do all the shit they said not to do to find out which shit. It's like that can lead to worse things than just being honest. You can get some stuff on you, okay? The laws of attraction do state that what we constantly send out comes back. There are many magical schools, however, that have cleansing rituals to deal with that blowback. And you shouldn't be running around with the Wiccans with this false sense of security, thinking everybody else is a Wiccan, following the Wiccan, reading the threefold law. However, I have not seen anything to amplify it threefold. When we bounce a radio signal off another planet, I used to do a type of ham radio we call moon bounce, where we bounce a signal off of the moon, and it shows up on another side of the planet. It is loud because there was nothing in its way, but it didn't reach the other side with 3 times the power that the original transmission emanated with. Yes. And I view the threefold law in those terms sometimes. There are all these heavenly bodies around us that have their own energies, and we bounce these waves off of them, and depending on the distance from us, it takes longer for those waves to get back to us. If we're constantly sending out, bad stuff, they're eventually going to bounce off, and the bad stuff's going to be coming into us. But nothing in that equation increases the wave. Matter of fact, the gravitational pull of most of these bodies decreases the wave. And some of the sizes of some of these gravitational bodies would totally suck up the wave. The gravity's so strong, there would be no return wave. We're trying to bounce shit off of Jupiter and have it come back. I don't think so. Jupiter's got so much gravity, I think it's going to pull even those energies into it and not send them back. We are using Jupiter's vibration in other magics and stuff like that. But I think about that. I think about what I was taught that the ancient people once taught. It was a bunch of lofty sounding shit a lot of times that you had to figure out what the hell it meant. Not like Orion Foxwood's, lofty sounding crap that means nothing. It was lofty sounding shit that, once you, started to figure out what it meant huge, dramatic things, otherworldly ideas. And they taught the craft should be heard on the wind and seen in the wild. And then specifically, anything that is a magical law should be reflected in nature. We should find some place in nature where that pattern is reflected, either symbolically or figuratively or symbolically. And I use this analogy constantly whenever a person says this thing on one of those pages. Like if I throw a pebble into a pond, depending on the size of the pond, the waves may return to its source. If the pond's really big, the waves won't return to the source, or they will return so small I can't even see those waves return. Now, one person argued, well, now those waves are going to be returning from several angles. In no instance of doing this, except an extremely small puddle, where I throw a pebble in, would those waves coming from different sources add up to an increase of threefold or more. One kid was saying tenfold, and I said, oh, God, now you're just making shit up. The threefold law is hard enough to argue with. Now you're going fucking tenfold on me? It's like, no, tenfold is the vengeance I put upon somebody that attacks my family or myself. Right. That's the tenfold law, okay? If there's a tenfold law, that's it. You fuck with me, I'll fuck with you tenfold. And you take out one of mine, I take a 10 of yours. That's the fucking law. Probably won't stop then because, by then the bloodlust ensues, and there's just really no stopping then. So, it's just best we don't start this shit, okay? That's the fucking tenfold law. Chalk it up, man. Quote it. Uncle Birch's tenfold law. Put it out there on the internet so I get associated with that. That tenfold law by Uncle Birch. Yeah, and I definitely want to touch on that one because I did it before because I keep hearing this one come up. You cannot do magic for personal gain. You cannot do magic for personal gain is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. Unless you're independently wealthy and happen to want to spend all your time practicing witchcraft.
What is he think he's going to do for? Personal loss?
Yeah, I know. But you need to take care of yours. You need to have your needs your needs met. You need to food on the table, a roof over your house. Your kids need to be taken care of. That kind of thing. That's magic for personal gain. This is left over from when there was a difference between the right-hand path and the left-hand path. And over time, I'm here to tell you, as one of the only few people that seem to have recognized the subtle change that occurred, the right-hand paths and left-hand paths joined forces a long time ago, and the philosophies which kept them apart joined a long time ago. And you are practicing both of those philosophies in your tradition. I bet you so. Even if you're trying to say you can't do magic for personal gain. That was the belief in the right-hand path and also the Jedi. The left-hand path was believed the opposite of that and also did the Sith. But it's stupid. Vows of poverty are for those that are destined to poverty. And God, wow, we really ranted about a lot for a long time. It's already like 20 minutes left of the show. I really got the one. This was one of the dumbest things I ever saw. It touched on the thing that you said a minute ago. Somebody on one of those noob sites a couple of days ago said, I can't burn candles in my house. Can I use battery-operated candles? And somebody chimed in and says, you can use anything as long as it feels right. Now, this goes back to chapter 1, was it? Way back in the beginning of the fucking talking points, experience, knowing what the hell you're talking about, knowing why a thing works. A witch needs to know why it works, not just what components to throw together to make a spell happen or make a fucking mojo bag. Why does that mojo bag work? I know most of the mojo bags I know that work, the reason why they work is the heating component within the center. The one root within the batch that heats them all up, that causes the energy to happen, and that falls perfectly in line with the laws of physics, where you have heat, you have energy. That's why it works. Now, too many of these other things, they don't know why it works. The reason why we turn out the lights, the reason why we light a candle, well, first for light. The candle in the darkness has a certain psychological effect, which is very necessary for most magic. The other reason we want to turn it off is that electromagnetic energy, such as electricity, disrupts the magical field. Now, a battery-operated candle is DC. DC disrupts the magical field, but it disrupts it differently than AC. AC agitates it more, but DC still disrupts the magical field. Now, if the candles... most times, this candle is going to be the focal point for magic. If you're doing the magic on a thing that has a field that disrupts the type of energy that is magic, this noob isn't going to do this anymore. Not that we need to recruit anybody, but you go and tell them, yeah, it's okay to use battery-operated candles for your spells, and they're not going to work. Then where are you? Are they going to come back to you and tell you how they didn't work? Are you going to own your shit then? It's like people just spout off this lofty new age shit. Yeah, you can use whatever you want as long as it feels right. It's like, no, electricity is not what we want. Magic follows most of the rules of electricity, but we don't want to mix it up with electricity. That's not it. The electricity within the candle has a circuitry to do just what it's doing and only what it's doing. We don't want to mix it up with that electricity. Then the energy for our spell is going to what? Make the fucking battery last longer? I don't know. It's wasted somehow. Quote me again, God damn it. Uncle Birch. You know, I did you hear? I haven't heard an advertisement. Conjure Gala? Is the Conjure Gala's coming up again?
I think last year the Big Apple one was in April.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen anything for it.
I thought I saw somebody posting.
If it's happening annually, then it should be coming up.
It's happening in 230. Oh, they have a calendar. 233 days, 16 hours, 14 minutes, and 13
No, for the Mile
seconds.
High,
Yeah,
not the Big Apple.
Well, it says Mile High.
Yeah, that means the Big
Mile High
Apple one's
Conjure
not
Gala.
happening this year.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I
So
guess.
no Big Apple, huh?
I don't know.
God, I thought somebody was talking about something. Huh. All right, well, let's just, I'll just, because we know most of those people, let's just double check and see if there's anything else. I saw a couple things posted. I know it's one of those places had the a thing for the spring solstice, but they fixed that. Luckily, that was making me tweak. So that was okay. That was the Mile High Conjure Gala, 2019. November 9th. All right, yeah. So it's not going to be until November. I thought that was like a summer thing. So there you go.
No, it was always that one was always in the fall.
So like I believe Hexfest has the same kind of thing. You could take like a day. You don't have to take all 3 days. That kind of thing. It's like this one's like $25 to $300. So theirs can be up to $300. They tend to have less people or less presenters there in a whole different situation. Fewer. Thank you, honey. But okay, so we won't plug that one because it's too far away. But all right, you got a thing that you want us to plug? You know, we'll plug up community stuff and religious and witchcraft stuff. If you got a shop, you're making decent money. Well,
even if you
maybe
have
we'll
something
charge you
political,
eventually something political.
as long as we agree with it.
As long as we agree with it. Yeah. But you can send these things to us to
We're partisans.
wittershinradio@gmail.com. You'll find our Facebook page at Wittershins Radio. It's one of the few places where if there's any advance warning of what we're going to do for a night, you'll get it. Sometimes I won't even post that to our pages, but there are some times that I'm planning a couple days ahead, unlike today, which, kind of one of those pull the show out of your ass and see what happens. But here we are, running out of time. No shortage of content. Actually, less music played than usual.
So we should
Plenty
play
going
some
on
now.
in the chat room. And I think it's been good. Yeah, battery candles for decoration only. Yeah. See, I just the way they asked the question about the battery candles, they were talking about using battery candles for the actual magic. It's like, you just, in addition to the heat and the fire and the sacredness of the fire, the consuming the physical object associated with our desire to force nature to abhor a vacuum and move to fill that void. You got to take my class to hear any more of that shit. But yeah. Come see me at gumroad.com/witch school, which is, of course, WITCHSKEWL. You can find all of my free shit and another rebroadcast of this show, with an entirely new audience. Probably about an hour after we finish the show, it gets rebroadcast on YouTube. But you can find my hundreds and hundreds of videos teaching all kinds of free witchcraft for a very long time now. Even that, I've been teaching witchcraft for a very long time. You can find me at Freakphil 1309. That's FREAKPHIL. And the number's 1309. Along with several of my songs that we play on this show. My channel is just so chock full of goodness and light. Thank you for joining us on Wittershins. And we look forward to, having a big group hug next time we meet. I have no song to play yet, but I think this would be good right about now.
This is a French word. I think that.
Give me a bomb, a Molotov. It's a coup d'etat. Generalissimo sets up shop, step out of line, next on a block. Armies marching through the streets. Trust no shock, trust will meet. Coup d'etat. Coup d'etat. Push from the left and a shove from the right. It's all planned out. We'll do it tonight. Push the president and his wife. We're hoping for ransom or take their lives. Attack their embassy. They are our enemies. The president, they smoke cigars. Anyone he does not like. And shoots or puts behind bars. Coup d'etat! Coup d'etat! Go! I'm as cranky as a bitch. All I wanna do is spit. Nothing to eat after that feast. We're getting laid regular at least. And I don't wanna hurt you, so stay out of my way today. Every 28 days women bleed, unless they get too much of your seed. My men gotta flush themselves out too, but it's always sexual when they do. You women, you just stick some pad inside. Men gotta practically fall in fucking love. Beautiful trees, beautiful trees, beautiful trees, beautiful trees. As I've been around the bush, that's bad luck. I asked you in 'cause I wanna fuck. You out 'cause I was hungry, but now I'm basically just tired. You don't have to leave, you can stay here. After all, this is still a love song. Beautiful trees, beautiful trees, beautiful trees. Long ago in a dusty village full of hunger, pain, and strife, a man came forth with a vision of truth and the way to a better life. He was convinced he had the answer and he compelled people to follow along. But the hunger never vanished and the man was banished and the village dried up and died. At a time when wise men peered through glass tubes towards the sky, the heavens changed in predictable ways and one man was able to find that he had thought he'd found the answer and he was quick to write his revelation. But as they were scrutinized in his colleagues' eyes, he soon became a mockery. Don't tell me about the answer, cause then another one will come along soon. I don't believe you have the answer, I've got ideas too. But if you got enough naivety and you got conviction, then the answer is perfect for you. Sits joking on his discharge, overwhelmed by industry, searching for a modern day savior from another place, inclined for charity. Everyone begging for an answer without regard to validity. The searching never ends, it goes on and